What drives men and women from the very heart of modern American civilization to cross thousands of years and return to the worship of a forgotten pharaonic god? Who are the members of the Temple of Set? Are they merely intellectuals who have strayed from the mainstream? Or the heirs to dangerous and terrifying black magic rituals? What is the secret behind the mysterious relationship between this temple and American intelligence circles? Are we facing a spiritual group in search of enlightenment, or an esoteric organization reviving hidden teachings from the age of the Pharaohs? In this documentary, we delve into the dark corridors of the Temple of Set, revealing for the first time how ancient magic converged with modern power within a world of secrets, beliefs, and shadows. In the late 1970s, waves of cultural and religious change were sweeping through Western societies. Movements of spiritual rebellion flourished, and numerous sects emerged that openly challenged traditional religions. Within this turbulent climate appeared a man named Michael Aquino, an officer in the United States Army, known for his enigmatic personality and strong will, qualities that would play a decisive role in the birth of one of the most controversial magical orders of modern times, the Temple of Set. At the time, Michael Aquino was a prominent member of the Church of Satan, founded by Anton LaVey, which promoted a new form of Satanism based on individualism and rebellion against Christian values. However, Aquino, deeply immersed in symbolism and the study of ancient Egyptian traditions, began to gradually distance himself from LaVey's vision, particularly the idea of Satan as merely a symbolic figure. He sought instead to explore the deeper roots of magic and ancient traditions, which he believed to be more profound and genuinely spiritual. In 1975, Aquino took a decisive step when he announced his separation from the Church of Satan and declared the founding of the Temple of Set, a new religious order drawing its roots from the ancient Egyptian god Set, the deity of darkness, chaos, and transformative power. In Aquino's view, the temple was an expression of a desire to revive ancient magic and reconnect with Egyptian mythologies that emphasized self-knowledge and spiritual empowerment, far removed from what he saw as the narrow confines of modern belief systems. The establishment of the Temple of Set was not merely a personal decision. It was also a response to the broader cultural and social context of America in the 1970s. That era was marked by intense cultural conflicts between liberation movements, the search for new identities, and a growing rejection of traditional authorities. Within this atmosphere, the Temple of Set, with its philosophy blending magic, spirituality, and ancient traditions, offered a refuge for those who felt that the human spirit required more than symbolic rebellion or superficial philosophies. The temple began as a small gathering of individuals fascinated by Egyptian magic and the pursuit of self-discovery, but it soon attracted the attention of intellectuals and seekers looking for new spiritual paths to confront the challenges of the modern age. The philosophy of the Temple of Set rejected the conventional duality of good and evil, instead encouraging the individual to confront inner darkness and understand it as a pathway to liberation and personal evolution. At the heart of the Temple of Set lies a profound philosophy rooted in the mythologies of ancient Egypt, where the god Set is not merely a legendary figure, but a central symbol carrying multiple layers of meaning. He represents the dark aspect of human nature and the cosmos. Far from conventional notions of good and evil, followers of the temple see Set as the embodiment of the transformative energy inherent in darkness and night, forces that drive change and growth through confrontation rather than avoidance. In the philosophy of the Temple of Set, the self is viewed as complex and multidimensional, inseparable from the inner darkness and best understood within it. Darkness, in this context, is not equated with pure evil, but is considered an essential aspect of the human experience, a hidden force behind consciousness that enables liberation and personal growth. This concept rejects familiar notions of the self that glorify only light and clarity. Instead, followers are encouraged to confront their fears, suppressed desires, and shadow aspects as a crucial step toward spiritual perfection. The Temple of Set strongly rejects traditional monotheisms that portray a singular creator god who monitors and judges good and evil, viewing such beliefs as restrictive to a deeper and freer understanding of existence. In their philosophy, any framework that reduces reality to a narrow duality or imposes centralized authority over the spirit obstructs true human freedom. For this reason, their beliefs embrace plurality and freedom of expression in the spiritual realm, without imposed limits. Magic in the Temple of Set is not merely ritual or superstition, it is a path to self-liberation and reconnection with cosmic, mysterious forces. It is regarded as a tool for understanding and transforming reality, whereby followers use ancient symbols, spells, and arcane techniques to explore the depths of the psyche, transcend social constraints, and activate latent personal power. Magic is the language of this philosophy, integrating mind and spirit, darkness and light, past and future, in a continuous journey toward enlightenment and transformation. In the Temple of Set, rituals often begin with the use of symbols imbued with deep historical and spiritual significance, most notably the Eye of Horus, which represents protection, power, and spiritual insight. This eye is not merely a traditional emblem. It serves as a tool to remind followers of their ability to perceive beyond appearances and to break down the barriers between the material world and hidden realms. Alongside the Eye of Horus, rituals incorporate a range of ancient Egyptian symbols, including amulets and hieroglyphic inscriptions, each carrying a specific message or energy that the order seeks to invoke during their practices. Magical practices within the temple involve the use of spells, charms, and nocturnal rites conducted in highly charged environments, where Set is invoked as the central force of transformation and empowerment. These rituals aim to break the constraints imposed by society and traditional religion, encouraging followers to explore, understand, and harness their shadow aspects in order to achieve personal and spiritual goals. Another important aspect is meditation, practiced regularly within the temple, which differs from conventional forms. Practitioners are urged to dive into the depths of their inner darkness, confronting fears without denying them. Through this meditative process, they seek to activate their personal energy, free themselves from psychological limitations, and reach a state of self-empowerment, wherein the individual becomes the master of their own self and latent powers. Additionally, followers are encouraged to use magical tools such as mirrors, candles, and gemstones, considered instruments to enhance focus and channel energies during rituals. These tools are not static symbols. Rather, they form an integral system that strengthens the practitioner's connection to hidden forces and aids in the attainment of spiritual objectives. The Temple of Set is formed as a highly organized and precise entity, built upon a complex internal structure that balances strict hierarchy with spiritual flexibility. Just as its followers reject the external world as a collective illusion, they construct for themselves an alternative system, which they call the True Order, where value is measured not by social rank or authority, but by the depth of insight and personal transformation. At the apex of this structure stands the Spiritual Leadership Council, headed by a figure known as the High Priest or Magister. This person is not a public leader who speaks to crowds, but a semi-mysterious figure who guides the intellectual and spiritual direction from behind the scenes. He is said to conduct the major rituals, oversee the training of the elite members, and ensure the spiritual qualification of those ascending the temple's inner ranks. Beneath this leadership, membership in the Temple of Set is organized into a detailed system of grades and stages, beginning with introductory levels and extending to advanced ranks. Each stage reflects a distinct phase of spiritual and intellectual development. This system is not merely formal, it is designed to guide members on an ascending inner journey, from doubt to insight, from insight to empowerment, and from empowerment to full symbolic manifestation. A new member is called a neophyte, Setian Fornwai, someone who has just begun their exploration of the temple's concepts. They are required to study foundational texts written by Michael Aquino and other intellectual figures within the temple, as well as practice meditation and mental discipline. Rituals are not imposed at this stage. Instead, the neophyte is encouraged to understand symbols and their meanings and to contemplate the notion of self-determination, which lies at the core of Setian philosophy. Over time, under the guidance of a spiritual mentor, a member may be permitted to ascend to higher ranks, where they encounter more complex practices, including advanced meditations, the use of ritual symbols such as the Eye of Horus or Anka, and participation in symbolic magical rituals conducted privately, away from public view. Advanced ranks, usually 4 or 5 in number, represent different levels of intellectual and spiritual empowerment. At these stages, the member is not merely a recipient of knowledge, but an active participant in its creation within the temple. They are granted certain responsibilities, which may include training others or composing new texts to contribute to the intellectual literature of the order. What distinguishes this organization is the absence of a traditional priestly structure. There is no authoritarian hierarchy based on blind obedience. Instead, the system recognizes competence and personal depth. Each rank is granted based on inner merit, not loyalty or belief, but on the individual's ability to achieve a form of mental and psychological transformation, a mark of what they describe as liberation from the mental matrix in which most humans are trapped. Training is not limited to textual study. It includes rituals conducted in small groups, sometimes called circles, utilizing symbolic tools, ritual music, and gestural signals designed to induce a state of cognitive breakthrough in perception. These rituals are carried out in closed environments, often surrounded by ancient Egyptian symbols, and directed toward a clear objective: the liberation of the self from the influence of external systems, whether religious, cultural, or psychological. Although the temple does not seek mass popularity, it maintains a precise system that ensures continuity and limited influence within specific communities. Communication between members is facilitated through the internet and encrypted mail, and annual closed meetings, known as Black Star Conferences, are held to review intellectual progress and propose new visions for the spiritual path. In the shadows that stretch between spiritual mystery and human curiosity, the followers of the Temple of Set stand as a close-knit group, surrounded by an aura of enigma and separated from the outside world by symbolic walls of secrecy and discretion. They are not a mass congregation but carefully selected individuals, often drawn from specific intellectual and spiritual circles, typically recruited through intense personal experiences or deep existential quests for answers overlooked by conventional society. The followers are organized into membership levels, ranging from the observing sympathizer to the dedicated member, then the awakened, and finally the transmitter, an individual granted permission to pass on knowledge to others under the direct supervision of the high Setian authority. This hierarchical structure is not based on loyalty or obedience. Rather, it relies on cumulative spiritual and skill-based tests that the member undergoes at each stage of their progression. As for their numbers, the exact membership is unknown, but they are estimated to exist in dozens of countries, particularly in North America and Western Europe, with small nuclei in Latin America and Asia. The temple avoids publicizing its membership and encourages followers to maintain a symbolic veil in interactions with the outside world, making them extremely difficult to trace. Independent estimates suggest that their numbers may reach a few thousand, divided between those fully devoted to life within the temple and others who maintain outward appearances of ordinary life. Their stance toward the external world is complex. They do not see themselves in direct conflict with traditional institutions, but they also place little trust in them. They view the world as immersed in the ignorance of the lower consciousness and consider it their duty to protect the luminous seeds until the time for full revelation comes. Accordingly, they avoid media exposure and do not present themselves as a formal sect, but rather as a spiritual movement with an inner esoteric path. Public relations are used cautiously. There are no official temple pages. Instead, private communication circles are maintained through encrypted apps, and invitations are sent via symbols or keywords understood only by the initiated. Some members participate in esoteric forums or philosophical online groups, where they share general ideas without explicitly revealing the temple's identity, planting curiosity that leads the interested to further investigation and deeper engagement. In academic circles, the Temple of Set is regarded as a unique example of what is termed alternative religions or postmodern religions, centered on concepts of individual identity, self-transformation, and the egoic as the axis of existence. Some scholars in comparative religion and Gnostic studies view the temple as a contemporary continuation of ancient Hermetic traditions, while others see it as a sophisticated iteration of LaVeyan or Nietzschean movements, celebrating the will to power and rebellion against inherited norms. Numerous academic theses have examined the phenomenon of the Temple of Set as an evolution within institutional Satanism, though often without resorting to conventional moral classifications, approaching it primarily from an anthropological and cultural perspective rather than a traditional religious one. In popular culture, the presence of the Temple of Set has remained subtle compared to the Church of Satan, which has long attracted the attention of tabloid press, filmmakers, and rebellious musicians. The temple's name rarely appears in horror films or dark novels, not because it is less intriguing, but because from its inception, it followed a more elitist and inward-focused path, making it less appealing to mainstream audiences hungry for sensationalist thrills. Nevertheless, there have been subtle or occasional direct references in cultural articles and investigative programs, particularly when discussing unconventional beliefs or symbols such as Set and their association with concepts like the shadow, the unconscious, and inner rebellion. The Temple of Set is not merely an esoteric movement inspired by pharaonic symbols. It is an attempt to forge a modern spiritual identity rooted in the depth of Egyptian mythology. While other sects rely on familiar texts or overused symbols, the followers of Set delve into the sands of the Nile in search of forgotten powers, believed to still resonate within the world's ether, capable of communication, transformation, and even influence. Yet, beyond the controversy, the Temple of Set remains a phenomenon worthy of reflection. It has managed to assert its presence in a crowded esoteric landscape, bridging the language of ancient symbols with the tools of the digital age. It has followers in the United States, Canada, and Europe who communicate through electronic platforms, study their texts in closed groups, and hold the belief that what they practice is more than mere ritual. It is a form of resistance against oblivion.